Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for tonight's hybrid meeting and the presentation with the Los Alamos Mountaineers. Before we get started, I want to make sure everyone's aware that the presentation is being recorded. I'm Beth Courtwright. I'm the operations manager here at the Pajarito Environmental Education Center, or PEAC, in Los Alamos, New Mexico, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's talk. First, I want to acknowledge our wonderful members and donors for your generous support. And for more details about other PEAC programs coming up, you can go to peaknature.org. Just a few logistics for our presentation before we get this started. Our presenter will be taking questions via Zoom chat and from the in-person audience. So for those of you watching from home, you can find that chat feature in the Zoom menu bar, and you can type your questions to the one that says PEAC Moderator and says Beth in the chat window anytime during the talk, and I'll read them here during the Q&A at the end. Just remember that not everybody in the room here can have a microphone on them, so there may be a delay when we're listening to those questions from the live audience. Don't worry, we'll be back on in a second, and we will repeat the question for everyone to hear. After the talk, you'll get a short evaluation in your email. Please do take a moment to fill that out. Your input really helps us to improve our future programming. I'll now pass it over to Sylvie to start the Mountaineers meeting. Sylvie.
All right. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, PEAC. Welcome, everybody. Good crowd here in the planetarium. Hello to those of you on Zoom. I see in front left a fan club for men presenters, so I'll try to be swift. All right. Oh, thank you, Beth. Okay. Today I have more than the agenda. It's a big night for me. Here we go. I will, in a moment, present the slate for the Los Alamos Mountaineers 2025 Board of Governance Officers. Wow, that was a mouthful. Bill will come do a safety share. Jean will do the trip report, and then the main show. A couple notes, since it's a little bit of a sequence. Our November monthly meeting will be here, but on the 19th, a little bit earlier than our typical routine because of Thanksgiving. And then the December potpourri is scheduled for December 11th at Fuller Lodge. Don't read everything I highlighted. So I bolded the 8 elected positions. So in November, at the monthly meeting here on the 19th, the membership will get to vote for our 8 elected members. And then in January, the new board, will get to elect up to 3 additional members. You'll see the position in a minute. All right, so here we go. For president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, equipment manager, program chair, trip coordinator, and membership chair. No one will sweat. Here we go. Here is the slate. So we will vote on this at our November, according to the bylaw, and the 2 proposed appointed voting members will be our position of webmaster and publicity. Okay, so thank you, Evan Rose, for chairing the nominating committee this year. Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Gwendolyn, for being the nominating committee. We appreciate it very much. Good work. We have a slate, and we'll vote on it in November. Thank you. Gwendolyn, if you're online, thank you. That is business. All right, it's already Bill's turn for a safety share. Thank you, Bill. I don't think you need this.
So I wanted to talk about a point of trip organizing, and solid trip organizing, of course, carries over directly into safety. And that's to encourage people on extended trips, on multi-day trips, to get themselves to pull the group together for a pre-trip meeting over dinner, over Zoom, whatever works before the trip. And the bottom line for this is that when you go out in the wilderness as a team, it's going to be a team that's isolated together often. It's a team that needs to work together. and it's a team that you want to start forming as soon as possible. And yet, if you think of the typical trip, you don't have a lot of time to do that team building at the beginning of a trip when you're actually out there. If you're at the trailhead, you're scurrying, you're packing, you're trying to get going, you're trying to hit the trail. When you hit camp, people are running off to find places for their tent, get things together. So when does a team actually form? And if a team is not in place, if you can't count on each other, if your expectations are inconsistent with each other, things happen. You disappoint each other. So there's all the reasons to do that. And we went out on a lovely llama trip just back from that week and a half ago. And yet we didn't have a pre-team meeting, and I sort of said, these are folks I've gone with before. We all know each other well. We're in busy lives, why bother? And in the end, I wished we'd had a team meeting, because even if it's people reintroducing the team. And a very important factor also is, suppose you have a lot of people who've done stuff together and you have somebody new. Well, how do you bring that person into the team? How do you make them feel welcome? That's part of team building, and you don't want to neglect that. We all learn things on our trips, what to take, what not to take, what to do, what not to do, and you can learn from each other. What expectations do you have from each other? Inventory, shared equipment, things you count. I count on perhaps you having a good first aid kit in your pack in case something happens. So you'd like to confirm that. Understanding each other's objectives. It can be the same trip. You advertise a destination, let's climb such and such a peak, let's do such and such a hike. And yet the people who go out on that can have very different objectives. And you can find yourself bumping into each other if your objectives aren't the same. One person might want to saunter, and as close as they get to the summit, that's fine with them. Another person is bound and determined to make the summit. Well, how do you find consistency in that? The answer is you talk it over, and you learn what would make a successful trip for each participant. What's the safety trip? What do we expect from each other? If you go on a half-hour stroll out of camp, is that something that somebody should know about? Maybe, maybe not. Standards can vary, but you ought to know what you expect with each other. And then on a multi-day trip, there's a very practical matter of sanitation, setting up the latrine. Where do you go? How do you handle it? How do you keep sanitation standards? And how do you at the same time preserve some level of privacy? So those are all things to talk about. Even if you have done a trip like that before, even if many of the people you're going with know all the same thing. So I urge people to take the time to get together for complicated multi-day trips and just get to know each other and plan it out. And if you do it right, you can adventure as a team and not a gaggle of individuals. And to me, the teamwork, going with people you can count on, whose company you enjoy being with, is an essential part of the outdoor experience for me. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Bill. Good reminder. All right, Jean, I think you're up for the trip report. Do you want me to advance? I'll do it.
That'd be great. All right. We take this time to talk about our trips for this last month or so, and then to talk about what's coming up. Tim Rennick led a trip towards the end of September up to the Trompas Lakes in the Sangre de Cristos above the towns of Truches. And there's their arrival point. And Tim had 7 people on the team, and they hit the aspens just perfectly. They had a fabulous hike. Oh. And then Patty took Ellen Mills' place and led the last Pajarito Mountain hike potluck on Monday night, September 30th. And they hit the aspens just beautifully too. Bill Podorski did his fall llama trek to the South Ladder Canyon area of the Escalante Grand Staircase National Monument. They had 9 folks, and if you include going and coming, they were out there for 9 days. Beautiful red rock country. And there's Bill himself, the trip leader, and the beautiful sandstone country there. And they had a special treat. They did see the Northern Lights on their trip, and boy, they had no urban light interference that night. And then, unfortunately, the weather came in this weekend, or fortunately, it came in, and we had 2 trips going this weekend. And one was canceled, Sylvie's hike to Rosie's Point with Peak due to snow and rain at Barreto Mountain. And then the Bisti Badlands camp out and hike got postponed till the spring. The roads over there kind of turn to grease when there's that much water. So that was a good safety decision. All right, lots of trips coming up. Bill's annual Moab trip, the week kind of that ends with the Veterans Day holiday. They have a house rented in Moab, and there will be groups adventuring out every day to hike, bike, possibly canyoneer, and there's room in the house if you might still be interested. So talk to Bill about what kind of activities might be going. Claire Shepard's going to lead a day hike on November 23rd. That's the weekend before Thanksgiving. She's going to do the Lower Water Canyon, Ancho Canyon Loop hike. Bill has a trip the first weekend, long weekend, December 4th through 8th to Bluff, Utah. They rented a house and we'll do daytime exploring to that wonderful area. Tanya Pietras had to reschedule her Thanksgiving backpack to the Christmas holidays due to some work commitments. So that's been reposted to go December 20th, and she has room on that trip. It's going to be a 30-mile backpack in the Big Bend National Park. How many days? It's 30 miles, and I think it's 4 days. To tell you the truth, I couldn't tell from the announcement. So talk to Tanya. And then looking forward, a spring llama trek Bill will lead in April, and the Bisti Badlands car camping and hike will be sometime in the spring also, that Clarissa Jablinski and Ann Satsangi will lead. And all right. There's going to be a wilderness first aid class here at Peak on November 2nd and 3rd. It's a fabulous course, 16 hours of class instruction and practical. It's really great for any mountaineer who wants to be out in the wilderness. And you can sign up on the Peak website. All right. So if you're not a member yet, if you join, it's a mere $15 a year. You get emails sent directly to your home telling you about the trips you can join. So become a member. It's great. Thank you.
Nice trips. Thank you. All right, one more thing between us and the main presentation. Anne's going to talk about a couple more trips and programs.
All right, we just had 2 more trips that were just dates decided today. They'll be posted shortly, but since December is coming fast and we're looking forward to snow, anyone thinking of backcountry skiing might be interested in a backcountry meetup that will happen up at the ski hill on December 7th. So look for the announcement for that to get to meet and connect with other backcountry skiers as we head into the season. And then there's an avalanche refresher course that will be posted for December 14th. So if you're backcountry skiing, make sure you get your refresher. Are you going to do the? No. Okay, so we're going to go, should I say about the potpourri? Okay, and then also coming up, just a look ahead for our December potpourri. We have an exciting lineup of talks. So you come there, you can hear things from the very high mountaintops and our mountaineering and the Continental Divide Trail to canyoneering and Badlands, things from far away, around the world to in our backyard, and how we take care of our trails and get ready for the winter right here on the Cañada Bonita Trail, and a bit about birding as we enjoy the trails around us. So come on out for the potpourri for food, fun, and interesting talks.
All right. That's it from you. Thank you. All right, you up. Here we go. You get to introduce yourselves as you wish. Here is our main presentation. Ski in quotation marks, the DC route, Mount Rainier. There you go, guys. Thank you.
You gave him a headset. You put that picture of me in there. Yeah. Walk around. I can't walk that way. I gotta stand by you. Don't trip on me.
Okay.
Who's first time here?
Okay. First time here?
Me too. My first time here. All right.
Am I muted? Okay.
Not muted anymore. Is there a laser button on this thing? No.
There is a top button on there, but people won't be able to see it.
Oh. They just have to drive here. You know, from wherever they are in many different time zones. Okay. Good evening, everybody. And thank you for coming here to the presentation at the Peak Center. Beautiful, amazing planetarium. And if you're not here at the Peak Center, then you're somewhere out on the interwebs enjoying the presentation, hopefully live. And if you're not enjoying it live, then you're enjoying it recorded. Anyway, we're glad that you're here. So welcome. The presentation tonight is, and I have to read my notes a little far away because my eyes are not that good anymore. And so we're going to do this presentation as just a little tag team between myself is Tabone, and this is Mud Duck over here on how we quote unquote skied the DC route on Mount Rainier. And if you were expecting a technical presentation on the Disappointment Cleaver, which is the DC route, this might not be the right presentation for you. And I think by the photos on this slide, you can evaluate for yourself the competence of the presenters.
Well, there's a story behind your photo that I hope we get to eventually.
We might. We're timing ourselves to see how many stories we can tell.
Yeah, it was weird just checking the time frame.
But we'll try to cover the stories that are shown here in the slides. And most importantly, life is a story and a journey. And hopefully you enjoy our journey from our story. So let's start a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago in 2022, knowing life is short, and I was not getting any younger. This is Tabone talking, Tadz Kostrubala. I enlisted my niece, Moira Meek, to make an attempt to ascend and descend via skis the Führer Finger on Mount Rainier. And on the right-hand side, you can see we were just below our high point, about 11,000 feet on the mountain, and the mountain's 14,300. So we still had a long ways to go before we were stormed off. Since it snowed several inches on us of warm, wet snow, we learned firsthand about the dangers on Mount Rainier. And it was our first time being up there. And it was actually Moira's first bigger mountain. And we were somewhere around this point. I think actually we were ascending here and on our way down when a rock that had started rolling down the snow started collecting the warm, wet snow. And if you've ever remember like the Flintstones, how they had those stone rocks. Well, just think of the center of the wheel being a rock and the entire rest of the wheel being snow. And it was about 3 feet in diameter. And by the time I saw it, it was just above us and it was going about 30 miles an hour. And we were in about a 200-foot wide couloir called this Finger of Fate. and I just screamed rock, and those rock climbers out there maybe are sweating just because I just said that. And, it didn't hit anybody, but, and thankfully, but I feel like the negative effects were long lasting, as this was Moira's first big mountain, and I was not sure she was ever wanting to come back. So a little bit about the fear of finger. So we're going to cover a couple routes tonight. The fear of finger, if the fear of finger is not on your ski mountaineering bucket list, you might want to pencil it in. Well, that's for those who might have a ski mountaineering bucket list out there. Hope you all are thinking about adding one if you don't have one. After this presentation, you'll go out and get a bucket list. So the fear of finger is about as classic as ski routes as they come, dropping south directly off the summit of Mount Rainier down to Paradise Trailhead, 9,200 vertical feet below, and you can actually make it 10,000 if you know what to do in the late spring. The route gets its name from 3,000-foot, 40-degree couloir that connects the Upper Nisqually and Wilson glaciers about halfway down the mountain. Some sources cite this route as the longest continuous ski descent in the lower 48, and it was a shoo-in as one of the lines featured in the 50 classic descents of North America. So you can clearly see, if you're a skier out there and you're a ski mountaineer, why you'd be like, oh, fear of finger, we got to go do that. Rockfall, psh, whatever. But I really wanted to get back to Rainier and ski the fear of finger. However, after the 2002 stormed off attempt, Moira was just not biting at any invites.
Where's her helmet?
What? I mean, Greg. Okay. We had a little helmet mishap. So we were on our way up. The reason why we were stormed off, and Greg's just prodding another story, we'll see how many stories he prods, is that, when you're on a big mountain and you put your helmet down, you have to put it, your open side down, and maybe on your backpack or clip it in. Moira was new to the mountains, big mountains, and she just, like, as soon as we started ascending in the dark in the morning, she put her helmet down on the snow in a fairly flat spot, but it was icy, and it just went goodbye. And so we actually had to ski off that day and then ski all the way back up and then do our ascent the next day. And that's part of the reason why we got caught in the storm. It was a double ascent. So let's go on. But anyways, so I needed to find a willing partner, and it just so happened an old friend, Gregory Mud Duck Huey, was back in New Mexico. Perfect opportunity to twist his arm. So this is our text back and forth. Me, hey, how's the bionic hip? You'll hear about that later. Let's go climb Rainier in June and ski down. That's a red circle if you're looking here. Greg is already a bit of a world traveler with lots of trips booked on his schedule, which were mostly not mountaineering these days, but finally indicated Rainier sounds good. So I had a partner. So the fear of finger. So our texting roadmaps began. We would plan to return to Mount Rainier and ski the fear of finger. And it was as with all partners for trips like this, we began talking about gear, brushing up on our crevasse rescue skills, and all the usual partner stuff. Here you can see the fear of finger route. It is really amazing and consistently steep. Think Black Diamond for 7,000 vertical feet. I mean, really. It's like, when we were up there, it was so steep, I was like, I'm not sure I'm skiing this section. You can see the finger part with where it's pointed out right here, and I guess I don't have to do it right there. That's where the rock fall, the Flintstone snow donut came down after us right in there. And we'll talk about rockfall later. Yeah. But anyways, let's move on but let's talk about the main characters for this trip first. So we're going to introduce ourselves just briefly. So Mud Duck used to be a real hard man. He has summited Denali 2 times, and Rainier 5 times. And is this now 6? Or this was the
My
5th?
6th trip, 5th summit.
6th trip, 5th summit. And though his beard may look white in one of these photos, trust me, it was just snow, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
He hasn't actually heard these slides before, so it's all brand new. I sent them to him. He had opportunities to edit.
I read them.
Okay, here we go. So, but since then, Mud Duck had forgotten about what snow even looked like. He had moved to some random island in the South Pacific called Kwajalein, and I don't even think I still know how to spell that.
Yeah.
So, where he was getting paid to, air quotes, work. But in reality, he was drinking Mai Tais, impressing the locals, and spearfishing every day. For over 10 years, it had been the Mud Duck in the tropics.
I lost some acclimatization, I think is the point here. With maybe one trip to
Mike,
Mount Fuji.
Mike.
One trip to Mount Fuji in that period was a nice refresher. But yeah, I got a little lazy and I got out of the loop, I think.
Right,
So
right.
I think if we even went back to the slide before, right, coming back and skiing some backcountry with Taj in March, and all I heard the whole time was, man, you're slow. Man, you're slow. Man, you're slow. And at the end of it, he says, you want to go ski Mount Rainier? And I'm like, well, after that, how could I say no? This is going to be great. Yeah, but like a kick in the ass. Welcome back to the Mountain West. And, you know, let's if we're going to reclaim it, this is the time.
Speaking of reclaiming, Mud Duck had a lot of reclaiming to do because those years had caught up to him, and is approaching 50. He had a new hip, right? A new knee, and he was now on diabetes watch on a regular basis, which is no joke.
Like this March trip was 3 months after a diabetes diagnosis where I'm still learning what does blood sugar do? What are these things? What's the new normal? And he says, yeah, let's go to Rainier. And I'm like, yeah, as long as I don't freeze my insulin, I think this will be fine. I think I read the book. I can do this. Right?
Yeah.
Don't be slow. I won't be slow.
That's a typical Mud Duck attitude.
Exactly.
We can do this.
Go. Yeah, rockfall. I'm good with the technical part at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just need to figure out if Mud Duck was really the man he used to be.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. My story is not nearly as exciting as Mud Duck. For the past 15 years, I've been working at Lannel, and you could pretty much find me at Pajarito Ski Hill instructing or skinning most days of the winter. And plug for Skiesta Skinathon. I put on Skiesta Skinathon every year. Would love to see you all there. But I had skied a few peaks in Colorado, but never did the big mountain ascents like I always thought I'd do while I was younger. And I was also getting older, and I was nearly 50, and I still hadn't skied anything worth talking about, right? Because you invited me here now. Okay, so it was finally getting close to the time to go, which was 8 days after Tuesday, May 21st, which was May 29th when we were supposed to leave. And so it was May 21st at the moment when you see these texts. We were supposed to leave the week after Memorial Day, or so I thought. Well, on Tuesday, May 21st, I got a text from Mud Duck, and it said, Mud Duck, I forgot you had to check in with Southwest boarding position. My boarding position is C33. And I was like, well, what? At first I thought, wow, Mud Duck is really on top of it. He's checking in just a week early. That is pretty impressive knowing him. Then I thought, wait a second, you can't check in a week early on Southwest. So I was at work and I just broke out into cold sweat. And I'm not even sure why they call it a cold sweat, because you're not exercising, because it's really a hot sweat. So I called Mud Duck, and yes, his flight was for tomorrow. And no, he was not delaying the trip and was leaving tomorrow no matter what, because after Rainier, he would fly to Alaska to work one of his air quote jobs. So with my only option was to go tomorrow, or the whole trip we had planned for the last 6 months was canceled. So first thing I did is I got on the phone with my wife, who's here tonight, and called her up. And, when you call your spouse on the phone, you can't see what they're thinking. You can only hear what they're saying, but I was thinking what she was thinking was probably, my gosh, my husband is incompetent. But to my defense, I had booked the exact same flight time, same flight day, Wednesday, same flight number, but just a week later. So anyways, negotiations were made with the family, flights were changed, weather checked, and I immediately went on leave that moment, raced home, and frantic packing sessions to leave the next day. So well, that's still a controversy, I think, as to who got the right dates. We're not really
I've got
sure.
screenshots of the original
I don't think
conversation.
didn't those get
what
lost
the
with
dates
that other
were.
phone? Isn't that gone with that other phone? I haven't seen those screenshots. Okay, we better move on to
Depending
this
on
in
the length of time,
presentation
we can
because we're
debrief
going
a
to run
lot
out
of
of time here.
communication.
Okay, so off we went, meeting up in the airport the next day, Wednesday flight. But one thing you all have to know about Mud Duck is that when he walks through life, it is like he has a rainbow out in front of him.
That's what I saw that slide. I did not understand.
And when other people hit that rainbow boundary, sometimes they just smile, they become happy. Mud Duck fills them with colors of ensuing conversations. And I've been on trips with him before, and it's not just only people that seem to be touched by his rainbow aura, but it just seems like everything seems to work out for Mud Duck. A situation where mere mortals would spell ruin in one way or another is just perfectly fine for him. You love it. Okay. So after arriving in Seattle, we rented the car, drove 2 to 3 hours from the SeaTac airport to the Paradise Lodge south side of Rainier. We took a couple of tourist photos down low on the mountain, and into the bank of clouds, we landed up. For all you New Mexicans. One of the great things about climbing Mount Rainier is it is logistically very easy to get to, especially from Albuquerque. It's almost like an extended weekend excursion. Okay, but we had a brand new, in my mind, we were like a brand new week. Like I wasn't planning for the weather. We were talking about the weather with 2 different weeks. It was pretty funny when you look back at it. So
Like gear decisions were made on his weather report a week later and my weather report of this. And if you go back to the picture of the whippet pole, I remember distinctly him saying, "No, man, you don't ski with a whippet pole. No way.
Oh, yeah,
or you don't ski
there's
with an ice axe. You always ski with a whippet pole." And I show up with a whippet pole in this freezing, nasty environment. He's got the world's biggest ice axe walking by. And I'm like, "But we agreed on this."
the whippet
whippet
gate.
debate,
I was going to
the
have a
weather
slide
report.
in there about whippet gate. All partners have their disagreements. We had the whippet gate. Okay, so what route to climb? The forecast was snow. I couldn't get a forecast picture from the time I didn't get a picture. So there were several inches in the forecast, and the wind was going to be about 40 miles per hour the Friday afternoon and beyond. And you can see in this slide, in this data count mirror, this is from the actual winds, and you can see that it's peaking at, up at 60 to 70. And that's a camp mirror, and it's way more windy at the top. So we didn't really know what we would be doing. We'd be summiting on Friday afternoon. So it was not the summer climbing season, as we learned out, as everything past Memorial Day, which some people wanted to go on the other side of Memorial Day, is really when the mountain settles down with the weather.
I was ahead of the tourists.
The Ranger hut was just opened for the first day that Wednesday when we showed up. They had never opened the hut before. They just opened up for the summer season. Okay, we spoke to the Rangers, and we were not certain on the upper mountain avalanche danger, with 4 inches of snow had already fallen and more was coming. And so we talked it over, and we were just too chicken to ski the Fear Finger with that forecast. So we had to reconsider. After some chats with the park rangers, we decided on the DC or Disappointment Cleaver route. Everything else was not what we thought we could do. So let's get into the DC route we all came here for. The DC route starts at Paradise Lodge parking lot. From the parking lot, the snow starts right there. And typically, even in the summer, you don't even have that much of bare ground. You can just start hiking. So the mountain is typically a 2-day climb, not necessarily your overall trip length, but 2 days to the top. Day 1 is from Paradise Parking to Camp Muir, and that's on the left-hand side. You have the Paradise Parking in blue, and Camp Muir is about halfway up. And that's just a CalTopo map, which is a great phone app. You can find a bunch of existing routes to download. And then day 2, and that's broken pretty much into 2 legs. You go up to Glacier Vista, which a lot of tourists actually hike to, and then you go up the Muir Snowfield to Camp Muir. Then from Camp Muir, which is at 10,030 feet, you have to, on leg 1, cross the Cowlitz. You go through the Cathedral Gap, which is really no big deal. And then you go up the Ingram Flats, which is also pretty much no big deal, and cross the Ingram Flats until you get to the Disappointment Cleaver. There's some minor serac danger in the flats, on the Ingram Flats. You just got to hustle past that before they fall on you. And then you go up to the Disappointment Cleaver for leg 3, and then you get into the open snow for leg 4, which is just traveling around crevasses. And then you go to the high break, which is typically some crevasse that you have to climb over, and then you zigzag to the top to the crest. So everything you need to know about the DC route can be found in a guide that is shown on the link here. And no one knows who had the first ascent, nor is there an accurate account of why it is called the Disappointment Cleaver. But the first ascent of the Ingram Glacier was probably made by A.L. Brown and a group from the Yakima tribe in 1885. Although they did not reach the highest pinnacle of the mountain, they ascended near the Cowlitz and Ingram glaciers and camped near the top of Gibraltar Rock. And we've got some pictures of Gibraltar Rock, which is pretty cool. That rock is really, really cool. Climbing Mount Rainier gained significant popularity after 1900 via the Gibraltar Ledges route, but after a rock collapse on that route in 1936, the DC route took over and in the 1940s became the standard ascent of the entire mountain. The DC route was first skied via the Ingram Glacier in 1961 with a party including several famous mountaineers, including Jim and Lou Whitaker. And here's a picture of Lou, kind of back in the 70s days. There was some color, so it could have been in color, but he's a famous mountaineer that a lot of us know. Anything to add, Mud Duck? Okay, so now today, on any given day of the summer season after Memorial Day, on the DC route, you will see gobs of people, especially on the Paradise to Glacier Point leg on the lower mountain. You can be guided by Rocky Mountain Expeditions or American Alpine Ascents. Those are the two major guide companies. You'll see guides and people running around all over the place up there. But book early, because I just looked them up, and 2025 season is already sold out. It's that popular. These outfits do guide on other routes on Rainier, but it's actually not super common, and the DC is the #1 route by a long shot. Fatalities are also not uncommon on Mount Rainier, and it remains a serious mountain. The nice thing to know is that rescue is close by if needed, as long as you last that long. In 2002, when I was on that mountain with Moira, we happened to witness a rescue on the Couts route. You can look up the Couts, and helicopters were on the scene flying back and forth. And they're not an unfamiliar sight. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the history of Mount Rainier as a mountain. So the mountain was formed along with other mountains in the Cascade chain because the oceanic crust subducted below the continental crest. Occasionally, hot magma burst through the continental crest, forming a pimple of a mountain on the surface. It's pretty classic high school geology out there. Mount Rainier is mainly composed of an accumulation of andesite and dacite lava flows and pumice eruptions. pretty similar to our geology in some ways. It was last volcanically active at between 500,000 years ago to about just 11,000 years ago, so pretty recent. And Mount Rainier is mostly covered by glaciers, but in between and within those glaciers is exposed rock. Although the nature of the rock is variable due to the rapid cooling of lava flows and the collection of ash and deposits, it is mostly defined by what mountaineers call and define as choss. Not chaos, but choss. A term without endearment. It means horrible, flyable, crumbling rock. Choss is a very scary to climb, and rockfall is constant, and in some areas, the DC route has a very little. In some areas, it has a lot of rockfall. The DC happens to have very little rockfall, making it safer, but other routes, such as the Liberty Ridge, have seen several fatalities due to rockfall, even in recent years.
Well, this is where I make my pitch for the Emmons Glacier. Of my 6 trips up here, this is the first time I've been on the standard route. And if you look right there how big the Emmons is, to me, a totally safer route besides a couple of very large bergschrunds and ice falls. And then after one trip on Liberty, I told Taj I'm never going back on that again. So
Yeah,
I think in parts, the standard route is because of its access and its traditional highway access versus that really large Emmons route.
In the Emmons, you have to start down way low, correct?
That's true. Yeah.
That's why people don't choose it.
Maybe a long hike through the foothills versus put your skis on at the car. Yeah.
Yeah.
We lost one guy. He said, I'm done. He didn't even make it to the ski section. Yeah.
Okay. So we're ready to get going. With the DC route selected, but no time to ascend that day, we needed a place to sleep on Wednesday night. Since our permit set was somewhere between the parking lot and Camp Muir, we chose approximately 300 feet from the parking lot. Thursday, day 1, started off in the drizzling clouds that surround Mount Rainier lower half most of the time. But once on the Muir snowfield, it was absolutely stunning. Most everyone ascends the Paradise parking lot to Camp Muir in one push, which is approximately 4.5 miles and 4,600 feet in elevation gain. So it's kind of a big day for a heavy pack. And although the Muir snowfield looks like a quadrillane paradise, which it kind of feels at moments, it's more like a solar oven. Okay, so up the Muir snowfield, we slogged endlessly under the weight of our heavy packs in the solar oven. And at some point, I started singing Tina Turner's "We Don't Need Another Hero." And we
months later, this was still echoing in my head. I made my girlfriend watch Mad Max when I got home.
So, and we eventually succumbed it to playing on repeat in our minds as we suffered all day on the ascent. And if you have not experienced the repetitive mind numbing that leads to a theme song on repeat in your mind, you might not have hiked long enough with heavy enough packed without enough fitness, because if you do, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. We finally made it, and I didn't succumb you to the "We Didn't Need Another Hero" song. I was going to put that in there, but there's so many things to do to prepare. So we finally made it to the Muir camp around 4 p.m. Camp Muir is a saddle between the Muir snowfield and the Cowlitz Glacier. There's a rock hut that sleeps about 30, and you can see it in here in the picture. And many climbers rely on that and leave the tent behind. But we were ready with the tent. And I mean, who wants to sleep with 28 smelly people in a hut with no ventilation?
It would, in my mind, sleep 4, right? But it looked like the below decks of a slave ship when you go in there, right?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad. We saw it full. We'll show you that. Okay, needless to say, the evening was no wind beautiful, and the short sleeves did come out. So we were having a nice, what was that, Thursday evening? Okay, this is our crew up there. Last, we arrived at Camp Muir around 4 p.m., and we were not the only ones there. There were 2 other parties, and they were unguided. And there were some other guided parties, but we really didn't see them. We're not exactly sure where they were.
they don't get to stay long enough.
They didn't hang out with us. The Canadian rad skier dudes were in the blue tent. The Colorado boys were a collection of total novices that had never done anything. So that evening, we gathered a ready strength for the next day, and guide Dave Gottlieb showed up. He had just set the wands and rope on the upper DC and had a few words for us. Mostly, you all look like a bunch of novices. Some truth to that. So let me tell you how not to kill yourself. We were pretty much like, holy moly, who is this guy? You could tell how much he just loved being a guide and trying to keep people alive, I guess.
I think he genuinely did, right?
Oh, he did.
It was a lecture, but it was a put you in your place lecture. Like he's looking at these Colorado 14er climbers with like an eye of skepticism. Like, I'm going to be rescuing you guys tomorrow if you don't listen to me right now.
Yeah.
And it was like, to me, the most important point was you guys are 14ers, but you're not Rainier 14ers, and setting that distinction, you know, on my, if you put together my Denali and my Rainier trips, 4 out of the 8 of them that we've been either part of a rescue or part of a recovery on all those trips, right? And that's the point he was trying to make right here, looking at this group and saying, you know, you guys are fresh meat, man. It's, you know, summer starts tomorrow and you guys are right ahead of the curve, and he knows it's about to happen, and gave us a really good breakdown of the route ahead, of the conditions, of the set ropes. And it was interesting. I think climbing the Emmons versus climbing this and getting this experience was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Just a couple things on his resume that I pulled up on the internet is, if you don't know, it's the Smug Stump Award. It's probably the single most important alpinist award in the United States, and he won it twice in 2010, 2013, and he won the American Red Cross Wilderness Hero Award. I don't know what that is, but it sounds really cool. So we're going to meet Dave right now. So you might have to, we're going to have to out there adjust your volume. It's a little quiet. We just got a little snippet of this. See if it runs.
Don't stay in really close. If you're traveling as a rope team of 2, make sure that you've got 40 feet and knots in the line between you. If you're traveling as a rope team of 3, you don't need the knots, but go for a longer rope system, right? So that if somebody goes, you've got plenty of people outside of the hole. Make sense? Yep. Okay, awesome. So last week we put in a buttload of work, and I literally shoveled it all the way up to the summit.
Thank you.
And then a storm came in just over the last 3 days and blew it all in. So today I went up and I shoveled up halfway up with Cleaver.
Are you with Alpine?
I am.
I was talking to Tyler down there, and he was like giving you guys props, and I'm like, love them. I'm going to buy you guys some cases of beer, but I just can't get them up here.
No worries. So we dug up halfway up the Cleaver. Now,
Even the distracted nature of the Colorado guys, this guy loses his tent pole like 5 minutes after this discussion is over. That tent pole goes flying. So
He had it too close
Dave
to the
knows
edge.
who he's dealing with. He sees these guys and he's got eyes on them.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, you could just tell he knew what he's doing because of those boots, really.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's get on to summit day. How about it? So Friday morning, day 2, it was time to go with a beautiful moon to start our way in the dark. We skinned across the Cowitz Glacier, and you can actually see 2 little, maybe that is I think those were a couple lights of the rad Colorado skier guys getting ready to go. You're going to see them in a minute. We went up onto the Ingram Glacier and across the flats where we could skin, we would, and where we were not. As you see, Greg carrying his skis here. I don't know what he was trying to tell me here.
I'll tell you.
It was not practical. We had to carry our skis. Go ahead, Greg. What is going on in that photo?
This is the conversation between mountaineering versus ski mountaineering is what's happening right there. And Taj is like dead set on just telling you this is what it's about. And I'm still of the, like, just mountaineering is so much easier. If you just want to summit a mountain, like, why carry all this gear and just instead walk up in your typical mountaineering boots and your typical mountaineering gear instead of having these wind sails on your back. But yeah, I'm a decent skier, but I'm not that experienced of a let's drag our gear to the top of a windy volcano skier. So that's what that picture was about. He's trying to win me over right now in the middle of this windstorm.
So it was absolutely beautiful, and this is a picture of the lower. This is a picture of the lower Gibraltar Rock looking south to Mount Adams. Really nice. So here we go. We're
This is
just about to.
This is when Dave talks about, I shoveled a route to the summit for you. Here it is right here.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So it's right at the bottom of the DC. There's a fixed rope band you need to cross. Sun was just up as we hit that spot, and I mean, it was totally stunning. There was not even a wisp of wind, and the whole way up the DC did not disappoint. Winds were calm, the views were magnificent, and you know, the climbing was really great. Above the DC, it turns to all snow and ice. Pretty radically different. You can just see the nature of the mountain up here. It's a lot more, looks more like Alaska. Seracs and many small and large crevasses appear, and the job is simply to follow these little wands that Guide Dave put for us in the snow. And you can see, so if you look carefully in some of the upcoming photos, you can see them. And you wind through up there till you got to the high break. Without the wands, you'd just be wasting a lot of time winding back and forth, trying to find where to go around the crevasses. So the wands help out a lot, not only in safety, but they greatly help in time efficiency.
And back up just a sec. You see just the EMM of the Emmons right there, right? If you're coming up from that side, you get to this nice, easy snowfield above. Below it is more the same on the Emmons, but without Dave marking the route and chopping steps for you.
Right,
so you get a really kind of a different experience, bigger snowfield, but again, less manicured maybe.
Yeah. And that's the Canadian rad skier dudes.
Yeah, they're fast.
Yeah, they did not like to talk too much.
No,
Slowing
English,
them down.
They
would have already left this.
They
They would have already summited and left this presentation a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So every year the high break changes. Some years there are multiple crevasses to cross with fixed ropes and ladders. As the seasons change, so do these crossings, both here and lower on the mountain. But early season is a great time, as many crevasses are filled in, and we were very lucky. We only had one crevasse to cross, and Dave had already set us up with fixed ropes and cut steps at the only crevasse crossing. It really was pretty bad, and for those of you who go there, if you talk to climbing rangers, you're going to get a big different story than if you talk to climber Dave's.
He made that point also.
We've got a Amber Alert going on here for everybody not in the presentation right now. Cell phone's going on. Okay, so we climbed the high break, got past that, and then you didn't think it could get any more beautiful, but it just kept getting more beautiful as you kind of got closer and closer to the summit.
I feel like that high break is noteworthy for future.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the high break in a minute.
Don't forget that spot.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so the summit of Mount Rainier is a crater where steam caves can be found. From the top of the DC, it gently slopes west. Since Mud Duck had already been there 4 times, Tabone carried on alone, never summiting previously. It is fairly safe at this point to go alone, and we had cell coverage up there just in case something happened. I summited, but I'm still learning how to smile in my summit photos. It was all good until the way back when I broke through a mini crevasse. You can just see this little crack here, and I actually fell in there. It was only about 6 to 8 feet deep, but I was freaked out. You think that there's no danger up there, and it just doesn't seem to go away. So I did make it back to where Mud Duck's waiting, and we started our descent down the hill. Now,
Can I hit that for a second?
Yeah, back.
I think he cut me some slack right there. This truly comes back to me being out of shape and saying, all right, we're at the crest. We're at the top of the crater. As a team, it's better if I sit here and eat a sandwich and hang out for a while. And he said, I'm gonna traverse this. I got to go to the peak. And I said, that's a good plan. You'll be safe. And he comes back and says, we shouldn't have done that. You're skipping. And I said, next time I promise I'll train better. But that little crack he skimmed over really speaks to not separating the team.
Yeah.
And,
it's hard to see here. I have a video of it, but it just wasn't that great.
Yeah, the picture doesn't show the debrief when he got back to where I was.
Yeah.
But maybe
for
discussion later, splitting up the team and conditioning leading up to it.
Okay, so this presentation is about ski mountaineering, and so far we've done 0 skiing. So, and we're like 30 minutes in. I don't even know how many minutes we're in here. Okay, so let's do some skiing.
We look real good.
But it's just prepare yourself. So here we go. Yeah.
We call this ski touring.
Yeah.
Ski touring. This is so fun. This is so fun.
Okay, time to ski, right? Well, the photos are telling things were not looking that good. The storm that was predicted on Friday afternoon had hit. Visibility was about 100 feet, and the wind was about 30 miles per hour, with gusts above that. But we persisted nonetheless. We, quote unquote, skied, clattering down, side slipping and falling, following the wands until we reached the high point, the high break, above the crevasse. By the way, above us in that video are the Colorado boys who we passed, and they would soon pass us later on, as you will see. Okay, so back to the high point. We're above the high point, and if you did not remember what the high break crevasse looks like, here's a couple photos to remind you. Was it skiable? Well, for some great skiers who wanted to huck the drop, yes, it was definitely skiable. But for Mud Duck and Tabone, no, it was not. We knew that we had to stop here and take off our skis, get back onto the fixed rope, and descend some more. Mud Duck was just a bit below where I stopped to take off my skis when I heard Mud Duck cursing.
That's nice.
And it went something like this. Tabone. Oh. What's the matter down there? Mud Duck. I dropped a ski. Tabone. Where is it? Can you see it? Mud Duck. No, God darn it. I am just going to throw this other ski off. It is useless now. You did say that.
That's a very whitewashed version of that conversation. And he's again gracious because I skied right by him on this nice flat spot where he was changing his gear out. And for a minute, there was 2 nice turns, and I took them right past him, right to the edge of this, what you're calling a crevasse, I call an ice ball. And I stopped right on the edge of it, right? And it comes down to, I hadn't trained with my leashes all season, right? I'd switched out my brakes for leashes the day before we left and got up there, stepped out, went to step out the other one, and the leash just unhooked itself and the ski was gone. Like, I did not drop a ski. I literally looked down and it had just disappeared from me. And to me, again, like training and practicing and having your mind in it beforehand instead of winging it. But that's a very kind version of the conversation he just presented.
Well, just so you know, our skis are ultralight touring ski kind of brand. They don't have brakes. So when he lost his ski, it was, just going about as fast as you possibly can go. And it took off, and then when they go, they typically go a long ways until they can stop.
Over where he's standing right there, right?
Oh.
Like off that cliff.
So Mud Duck and I clipped into the fixed ropes and peered over the edge and no ski. You happen to see it's here, but we could not see it. We continued down and hypothesized about the speed which the ski might be going and how far it would launch off the lip of the crevasse and where it could possibly be. And then we actually climbed down quite a ways, and we did not see the ski. Not until Mud Duck's rainbow aura pierced the distance that the ski was from us. And the javelin ski was sticking straight out of the snow. So Tabone set up a belay, that's the upper right-hand picture, and belayed Mud Duck, that's the lower right-hand picture, off for a ski rescue.
Which, this ski should not be here. It should be back in Seattle right now. It's the fact that this is right there.
If your name was anything other than Mud Duck, you would not have recovered the ski.
And here comes Colorado. Hey, what are you guys doing over there?
Yeah, they ended up passing us. So ski retrieve, we continued on down, and so did the fierce winds. It really wasn't possible for us to ski. It was barely possible for us to keep the skis on our back because they acting like sails. We were like basically crawling down because we had to carry the skis. We couldn't ski. And there's another route down on the Ingram Glacier, but you couldn't see the crevasses at that point, so it was impossible to go down the Ingram and ski the Ingram. So we had to down climb the DC route. So anyways, we passed the Colorado boys here, who were all absolutely whooped. We passed several guides here, a guide camp that was failing to establish a high camp in the wind. And in case you wanted to know just how it felt to be setting up that camp or how it felt to be hiking down right there, we got a little video for you.
They paid for this. And I'll just mention, like, these Colorado guys were fit. They looked like a rugby team when we saw them in the parking lot coming up. And, like, they're tired right there. They're super tired.
They were tired. So, another video, we skied the last section of the Cowlitz Glacier. When you compare this video to the last one, watching the Colorado boys slogging down, and you think about Greg's earlier comment of why the heck we have skis, I will show you right now. I'm doing a high traverse so that I can not have to climb it all back into camp. And this is the last section, and we were below in a kind of windless area, so it was wonderful.
Sweet corn, baby!
So I really think that there really is no controversy about the best way to mountaineer. It is ski mountaineering. Okay, we spent the night in the Muir hut, and we had the place to ourselves. We fixed up some gear, and we fixed some dinner. With an extra day, Saturday, planned in case of bad weather, Tabone skied a few laps on the Muir Glacier while Mud Duck rested. And I think you skied a lap that day too, didn't you?
Yeah, we did one.
Yeah, okay. The skiing on the Muir, skiing from Camp Muir is amazing. The lower snowfield has about 3,000 vertical feet of consistent blue to green steepness snow with no crevasse danger. There are some short lines above camp that are safe as well. If you look closely look closely at this image, you're going to see the Nescali Glacier on the left-hand side there. And just to the right of the Nescali, on past those rocks, you're going to see a small snow slide right here. And I took this photo after skiing right here earlier that day. But it was actually, so what happens every day is you're going to have small slough-offs in the afternoon. That's why I wasn't skiing it in the afternoon, because it develops and you have these small slough-offs. The Nescali right here, which you see this bunch of seracs sitting here, is absolutely gorgeous. It flanks your left-hand side as you come into Camp Muir, and every single day, as long as the temperatures are above 60, it'll be calving, making noise, dropping ice, and you're plenty far away from it. But you think you're in Alaska, but you're just in the lower 48. So it's really cool. Okay. So the fun didn't stop there. Saturday evening, the wind really started up again. It was screaming. Tabone, I found a half-built snow cave. We finished up the build and climbed inside. It was a freight train on the exterior and a Buddhist temple inside. The next video is Mud Duck narrating the snow cave introduction. You cannot hear much, but it's more about experience, the fierce winds. And that was the day before Memorial Day, so people started to show up for a Sunday climb for Memorial Day. So we're going to roll that film right now.
This windy an hour ago. Look at this poor guy's tent over here. We just took that apart and got down. There's like 20 many people staying in this rock house right now because of this. These guys have just got here. So check this out. I'm taking you on a walk. We were camping here. Taj is so excited. Here today because the man's a Boy Scout. Look at this. Here, try that snow. Yeah. Ready? Ready? Oh. Steps into the snow house. Like, a whole family could sleep in here if they had to. This is it. Can you hear any wind? No wind. It's like 10 degrees warmer just coming in the door. This is the best decision we made yet. I'm gonna start manufacturing these things. Just me and a shovel. Show up at camp. Who needs an igloo? And I was actually resistant to moving when he came back all happy about, guess what I found? Guess what I found? And I'm like, man, we just came off the summit. We got a tent here. It's semi-protected. Like, I don't want to move right now. And then that was the realization, right? When in doubt, to like move inside.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Snow caves. To 30 people, I was out there trying to dig another snow cave for somebody else. But
those poor guys, there were definitely 30 of them trying to pack into that rock house.
We wish we got that photo. There was like sardines in there.
Folks on Mount Fuji and those little huts on Mount Fuji, right? Just side by side by side by side.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to give them, he gave them our tent pad, and then because he can't stop moving, was digging them another one on the lee side. Nobody wanted it. They packed in. They did not sleep with us.
They're just not real mountaineers. That's all there is.
That must be. They're not ski mountaineers. That's for sure.
Okay, so Sunday arrived and it was time to ski out of here. We had a complete whiteout. I mean, you thought it was bad before. We couldn't see 10 feet, although there was no wind. The great thing about the ski out, there was like 2 or 3 inches of fresh powder.
It was fantastic.
It was fantastic, and we just had heavy packs. We were a lot stronger now, But just a word of caution, skiing out, that's actually where people get in trouble because the lower mountain, the east side, just drops off really fast. So you got to be really careful down the lower mountain as you get out of there, and the rangers will tell you so. And the great thing about it is you can ski all the way right down to the car. And here's Mud Duck making it all the way.
Hold on a minute. Oh my God, I think I pulled my butt, man. I did pull my butt still hurts. Side of the highway, and I started lollygagging, and I did a full roly-poly.
Oh man.
Skis stayed on.
Wow.
But I think my left glute is still up there in the snow. All the way. Ski all the way down, see the highway, roly-poly.
Nice.
Ski's still on though.
You got another 30 feet.
Oh God, you gotta ski to the car. On the sidewalk. Stay on the sidewalk. Who parked that car so poorly? What a day. What a day, folks. That's the adrenaline from the ski instead of walking down, right? That is where he wins his case.
Okay, so the drizzle could not have felt. What's that? Oh, drizzle could not have felt any better knowing that we had skied the DC route on Mount Rainier, and we had lived to tell the story. The end. Are there any questions? We already answered a lot of them.
Where'd Mud Duck?
Where did
he asked where Mud Duck came from. I think I just winged that. I picked that up in rugby. And he said, "What's your radio handle?" And it's
But it is a real bird.
It is,
Yeah,
but
bird.
I don't think that's what I was named for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you don't represent a bird like
My graceful
animal
style,
to me.
my graceful
Yes.
style on the
Yeah.
ski slope or the rugby field.
Yeah. Great question.
So wait, in places where you'd be roped, climbing up, skiing down, no ropes, is that right?
That is correct. We did not do any of the ascent roped. And that was a little bit of a controversy between the two of us, but it was it was okay. I mean, so there's advantages and disadvantages, and Greg can probably go into the advantages and disadvantages of the rope. You're a lot slower. If somebody does fall while roped, it's probably a lower chance that you're going to arrest them unless you're really short rope, tight roped. But the big advantage of being roped is crevasse rescue. And with two people with enough knots, you can probably catch another person.
I think on that route, the way it was protected, anywhere we would have roped up was already roped from the guides, and we could short rope to those. Like on Emmons, there were a couple of places where we did rope up over some of those bergschrunds and ice falls, whereas on this one, they already had fixed lines that we could clip into. But yeah, I'd probably lean on the side of mobility. There were a couple of young kids that had probably just come out of a Knowles course or some kind of an outward bound course, and they watched us going up, and I heard them below us say, that looks really reckless going unroped through this. But it was just a big ice field, and even with my whippet pole, I felt that I could self-arrest sliding down the side of that. You with your giant broadsword ice axe, obviously. We thought we could self-arrest anything, and we were never on open crevassed fields unroped. On Denali, we've skied roped, and it just takes a lot of rope management and really good teamwork where you're just not skiing over that.
There's some advantage to skiing because your weight distribution is a lot larger.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean a crevasse can't break open.
Aside from letting him go summit by himself was maybe the one time we should have been roped. I was back there eating a sandwich. It was a burrito. It was a.
Did you say you fell into the crevasse?
I felt like half my body.
Okay,
So one ski, I had one leg like this, and because it wasn't very wide, my outside shoulder hit, and so just kind of caught myself and kind of just pushed out. But yeah,
Like in a fumarole, in an active volcanic crater, you fell into a crevasse.
Yeah, just didn't make any sense. I think it was like some steam crevasse. I had no idea what it was.
Okay, I'll switch to a couple questions that came in online. Approximately how heavy were your packs?
Way too heavy.
He had 5 pounds of gorp, I think. I bet mine was 60. His was 70 based on the extra food he carried, which I ate happily.
So that was actually their other question was, what was your favorite food on your adventure?
His snack mix.
Yeah, I always bring a lot of snack mix and a lot of chocolate-covered almonds or something that has chocolate. So that definitely is favorite.
I think I was pretty bare bones because I knew I was out of shape and packed really frugally. But I had this little toolkit I kept getting shit for. Oh, God, you pack a lot of tools. You pack a lot of gear. And then when his ski breaks or his boot breaks, I got some credibility for that. But I also got ransacked by a raven on the morning we summited. I just bagged everything in my stuff sack, threw it inside the vestibule instead of packing it away, and had forgotten this about that mountain, that we came back and it was a yard sale. Like, it had taken entire mountain houses. It had taken what it broke into. I had a little container of butter that I was spreading on tortillas. It cracked into that, ate those, and it was spread everywhere. So I was literally meals short for the extra 2 days we were going to be there. It was something to remember.
Yeah. Keep your food in your tent.
I ate a lot of his food then, too. A tent or pack it away, I think, even bury it. There were bear cans up there, wildlife cans by that stone hut, I think is actually the protocol. And we'd forgotten that, and it got us. But, oh, what else? Sorry.
Somebody wants to know what a good first step would be if they wanted to get into this sort of thing as a newbie.
What'd you do? You did Outward Bound.
Yeah.
I joined Atalaya Search and Rescue. I walked in and said, I'm going to need you guys at the rate I'm going. And so they kind of took me under their wing in Santa Fe.
Avalanche courses, ski, backcountry skiing, all that. But eventually, and you're going to, so whoever is a newbie, you're going to need to learn how to use an ice axe to self-arrest, and then you're going to need a dry land practice, crevasse rescue. And typically, you know, there are plenty of 2-person teams out there, but you'll see that in mountaineering, generally, when you're doing crevasse travel, you're looking at 3 or greater.
And actually, to follow up, like the Los Alamos Mountaineers are a great resource. They have avalanche-based programming, you know, multiple times a year usually, and also gear to lend and lots of knowledge base there. All right, Taj, who's Robertson? Because this person has to say Robertson and Taj Cascade Volcano Tour 2025.
No, he's my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay. There you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, yeah.
Robertson's listening in.
If Sam comes, tell him that. Tell him if Sam comes, I'm in.
Yeah.
All right, you heard it. You heard it here. All right, any other questions from the room?
Greg, you want to mention on November talk is avalanche safety by Rick Rubio.
Perfect. November talk is Avalanche Safety by Rick.
All right. Well,
All
thank
right.
you, everybody, for
Yeah,
coming to join.
Thank you. Thank you both. I'll keep watching on here. If anybody has any last minute questions, if you're typing them in, keep going. I'll watch for it. But if that's it, thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your exciting trip with us tonight. And everybody, please remember to watch your email for that quick survey coming out. Check the Peak website for some more great programming coming up through the winter. And thanks everyone again for joining us tonight. Have a good night.